What are the three most important decisions that people usually have to make in their lives? Getting married and having kids are definitely on that list, but what about the career you decide to study? Is it really that important? In the end, you can always switch careers or just do something else if you don't like it. However, if you choose wisely, that's likely to impact the rest of your life. Yet, I haven't seen any tool or revolutionary vocational test that leverage state-of-art technology to help students to make better decisions. Instead, most of them are boring and predictable questionnaires that rely a lot on the self-awareness of the person being evaluated. And I think that it's time to change that and to innovate in that area by using AI and immersive platforms like video games to evaluate people's aptitudes. That's why I created a prototype to provide a better career advice, and I would like to show it to you today to get your opinion and any ideas on how to improve it. I included it as a new section in the online platform I created, and you can navigate to it under the vocational section. But before I start, I would like to elaborate more on what I would consider the optimal solution. And according to my investigations, there are three main aspects that should be evaluated. The first one is, what are you good at? Those are specific aptitudes that should not depend on your current knowledge, but on your cognitive skills like logical thinking, memory, attention, creativity, and so on. And this can be properly evaluated with minigames. The second aspect will be, what do you enjoy? This is linked to your personality and activities that you would like to do on a regular basis. Questions like whether you prefer field work over lab work, if you are introverted, or if you enjoy working and socializing with other people should be answered. This can be done with a quiz, but ideally we should not ask directly, but let people make decisions under hypothetical scenarios. And finally, what is important for you? This refers to your constant motivations and priority. For example, some people may prefer having a good salary over following their passions, and others may want to make social impact, or they simply want less demanding jobs. We can gather this information in a quiz as well, but for this one, we could be more direct. By the way, I wrote an article about this and I asked people what is the most important factor they take into account when it comes to deciding on their careers. Most people share that they just want to do what they like, and salary and stability was secondary. But coming back to the ideal solution I'm proposing, once we have the skills and the personality data of the individual, we should be able to suggest a field of study. This wouldn't be granular, but instead a high-level classification of knowledge areas like engineering, finance, health, education, and so on. Afterwards, by combining personality data and motivation, we could determine what specific degree program may match their interests, like being a doctor over a nurse or studying chemistry over computer science. But the journey does not finish here. Even if we provide the most accurate suggestion, how can we help students to move things forward and start taking action toward their future? Finding the right school is not an easy job, and people have different preferences and constraints regarding location, time, and budget. So the final step will be to provide a tool that will help them to easily find a place in which they can study for that profession, which I already created. So this is pretty much what I consider the right way to do it. For this prototype, I'm just collecting people's skills and personality data, but I still have to work on the motivations part. Therefore, this test suggests a field of study, but not a granular degree program yet. So let's go ahead and take a look. In this first minigame, I want to test people's ability to do mental calculations under pressure. So basically, you get a number in your magic wand and you have to hit the enemy whose operation evaluates to that number. For example, my wand has the number 12, so I will select this one with operation 1 plus 11. And now that it has the number minus 1, I will target the enemy with the operation 16 minus 17, and so on. I'm just including basic operations because I don't want to test their current knowledge of algebra or calculus, but I want to measure how fast people do mental math. By doing so, we get different signals, like if the individuals are frustrated by doing this, if they actually get it right, or if they struggle with one particular operation, like divisions. It is inspired by Space Invaders, in case you didn't notice that, but I think we had enough, you already got the point. I'm going to fast forward to the end of this game. Well, finally you can see your score for this particular game. This is supposed to represent one cognitive skill. In this particular case, it's number sense. But this is just the beginning, let's move to the next one. In this game, I just want to measure work memory by asking people to put attention to the vehicle colors and remember their sequence. For example, in this first round, I saw a red car, a green car, and a blue one, so I have to provide the answer in the same order. As I make progress, I will have to memorize more colors and the difficulty is gradually increasing. In this case, I think the first one was a green car, the next one was green as well, then yellow, and finally yellow, which was quite easy, but let's try one more round. It's a green card, a red, yellow, yellow, and another yellow one. It's usually more challenging, but I was kind of lucky because many colors were repeated. But never mind. The reason why I included this one is that some jobs require a good memory, like doctors and lawyers. So it's quite an important signal that is pretty straightforward to test. And that's it. Moving forward to show the next one, this time people have to identify grammatical mistakes in several sentences. Honestly, I wanted to use this as a proxy to identify good communicators or potential writers, but by looking at the distribution data, I realized that it was very noisy, and that's probably because I'm not precisely testing a cognitive skill or talent, but it's more like their current knowledge on this area. So I feel sort of embarrassed because this minigame is kind of a waste of time, but if any of you have a better idea about how to test communication skills using video games, please let me know. Let's talk about another one. My intention with this game was to gather signals to understand if a person is willing to take risks and if those risks actually make sense. As you may know, risk management is an important skill for people working in finance and business areas, so I tried to evaluate that with a gambling game. Basically, you are given two options, each of them with a victory probability and a wager. Unfortunately, most people shared that they didn't quite understand this game, so I think that the idea was good, but I should have made something less confusing. Finally, we have a short and pretty straightforward IQ test so that we can measure logical thinking and problem-solving skills. There is nothing very innovative here, those are just regular follow the pattern or follow the sequence questions. After completing the IQ test, we are done regarding the cognitive skills, so we should be able to know what are you good at. And the next step is understanding your personality. So from now there are no good or bad answers, but we are gonna gather data like whether you feel attracted by art or history, if you think before you act, if you are organized or not, what bothers you and what makes you happy, if you are introverted or extroverted, what are your hobbies, and so on. And here is the result. Based on my cognitive skills and personality signals, it is suggesting me to study computer science. I can either like or dislike this recommendation, which will help to train and improve the algorithm. And as I mentioned, this test suggests a field of study out of 10 different areas, so it's not very granular, but we are anyways listing all degree programs related to it. Finally, if I'm determined to study that, it will help me to find a school that offers degrees related to computer science, which is kind of encouraging for people that require even more orientation. This is pretty much about my prototype. Of course, it is far from being perfect, and there are many things that have to be improved. Starting from the minigame selection, which was not the best, and I think that I should have worked more closely with a neurologist or a psychologist, instead of making hypotheses out of my intuition and some random articles I read on the internet. The second part is the classification algorithm. I'm not a machine learning expert, so I decided to use a linear regression classifier because it is easy to implement, but I probably should have used something else like a decision tree. And in addition to that, the training data was very small. I asked about 80 people that claim to be happy with their professions to play those minigames, and I used their answers and scores as training data, but that was definitely not representative enough. And finally, I should add the motivation quiz and include statistics about the job market and potential salary for each profession. But that's quite a lot of work, and given that AI is going to disrupt all industries and probably take our jobs, I probably should be more concerned about keeping my own job instead of advising other people. But please let me know in the comments if you think that it's worth to continue investing on this, and if you have any suggestions or ideas for the next version. Thank you so much, and see you next time.